Yo, I can't help but laugh. I know you're annoyed when you see the first Pokemon on this list. What's up, guys? You got pokeaim here, and today we're going to be talking about Knockoff, which is a move tutor in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon, and we're going to be talking about the Pokemon that get it. I'll be giving you my initial thoughts, the first things that come to mind, how I feel it will change the metagame. How do you turn off Windows 10 updates? They just be coming on all the time. And then, I want to know your thoughts, so you can leave them down below. So the first Pokemon, I had to put this one as first. Toxapex now gets Knockoff. This is pretty big considering the way Toxapex was able to wear down annoying Pokemon like Celesteela. I know if I'm a Toxapex, I shouldn't be calling Celesteela annoying, but the way Toxapex was able to wear down annoying Pokemon like Celesteela was burning them. That way it cancels out their leftovers and not their Leech Seed, and then typically the player would switch into Tangrowth and knock off. But now Toxapex has access to Knockoff, and this is also really cool because even though Toxapex is a really, I don't want to say it's a super passive Pokemon because Toxic Spikes wear everything down, Toxic, Scald Burns, even though it assumes the role of a passive Pokemon. And again, I talked about this with NJMP. This is really big because now it's just going to be able to do it even better. So first off, you already got Knockoff on its arsenal and Recover. These are going to be 100% static on whatever moveset it runs, I feel. Or at least Recover is going to be static on whatever moveset it runs. Then you'll have Toxic most likely to pair with Knockoff, Recover, and that. And then you'll either run Scald, T-Spikes, or Haze. I'm pretty sure it would be Scald with Knockoff because I think that's what abuses this the best, being able to knock off a Celesteela coming in and then Scald burning them, being able to knock off Zapdos, getting rid of its leftovers, knocking off Tapu Koko coming in, knocking off Tapu Fini, pretty much just getting rid of the item of your opponent. Imagine trying to flinch down a Toxapex with an Ash Greninja and just losing your choice specs, and then you're doing like 25, 30 to Toxapex if they're max depth. Again, knocking off Lele coming in. This is a pretty big buff that Toxapex has gotten. In the recent metagame of Sun and Moon, we've seen more double Toxic plus T-Spikes. Haze is actually taking a step back on being ran on Toxapex. That's because Toxapex has switched to a more Spadef nature in order to take on Pokemon like Greninja better. Also helps versus Rain and whatnot. So Haze is sometimes taking a step back, but you still do see Haze on smooth set. But I can definitely see Knockoff making a huge what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, I don't want to say return, but it's going to be used on Toxapex a lot. I'm positive will be used on Toxapex a lot. Being able to get rid of your opponent's item is big. This Pokemon has like the best moves in the game. It has Knockoff, it has Scald, it has Toxic that 100% lands because it's a poison type, and reliable recovery, and T-Spikes, and Haze. This mon just got a lot more annoying. Give me your thoughts on that, because I'm generally curious what you think about Toxapex. How do you think it's going to affect the meta? And of course, I only talked about a few Pokemon that I feel like it will help in the matchup versus, but in general, losing your item sucks. It actually sucks. And you can't just say, oh, well, why don't you just go into your Z move Kartana and, not worry about it. Well, what if you get Scald Burn? This Pokemon has so much going for it right now, and it already had so much going for it because it was so good, and now it just got better. Another Pokemon that got Knockoff, which I'm actually pretty happy about, is Kartana. Now, Kartana is able to abuse this really well, and this actually helps out for Kartana sweeps. I can see something like SD, FightMZ, Knockoff, Sacred Sword, Leaf Blade, right? And Knockoff is also cool in the VGC part because it actually gives Kartana a great way of, one, dealing with Marowak. Marowak goes down to Knockoff if it's just straight up offensive. If you're running a Life Orb as well, I'm just talking about the VGC side real quick because I want to talk about that a little bit. If you're running a Life Orb, it actually knocks out max HP Marowak. It also helps get rid of the Fat Berry on Arcanine, get rid of Choice Scarf on Landers. I'm talking about get rid of Cresselia. I'm talking more so about VGC 2018 because I'm not sure if Arcanine or Marowak would be used as much. I don't know how that's going to go. But Kartana now has Knockoff, so this is great for allowing it to deal with Celesteela, Zapdos, Skarmory, pretty much dealing with Pokemon that already upset it. In the recent, I want to say month or so, Kartana has been running SD Darkium-Z Night Slash because that actually gives it a great neutral hit to deal with Zapdos. But now if you actually look at this calc, plus 2 Knockoff does 57 to 67 to max defense Zapdos, and with your Z move, it can do 71 to 83. So if you actually knock off Zapdos prior, right? If you just click knock off and Zapdos comes in, you switch out, Stealth Rock, Zapdos comes back in, Black Hole Eclipse still has a great chance of, or a pretty decent chance of knocking it out. And even then, like, you wear it down, even then it has to be worn down by Leaf Blade or whatnot. Like, it can't come in on +2 Kartana. It actually cannot come in. It has to already be in by the time Kartana is +2. But that's just something to think about. Kartana just got even better. Just being able to wear down everything, getting knockoff is just a good move. It's actually just a good move. Solgaleo now has access to knockoff. Now, I'm not sure how much this is gonna play a role considering it's Ubers, and off the top of my head, the best Solgaleo switch-ins are usually Support Arceus, which items cannot be knocked off, Primal Groudon, which item cannot be knocked off, and Kyogre, which again, Primal Kyogre, which item cannot be knocked off. I'm thinking maybe if you have a defensive Yveltal, maybe getting rid of your leftovers or Charty Berry or whatever you're running would help. But for the most part, not sure how much it actually helps Solgaleo. I'd rather go for Sunsteel Strike or Earthquake or Wild Charge on whatever's coming in. But maybe like on a support set. Like the only thing I think about, like what you're knocking off in Ubers would be, again, leftovers on Celesteela, leftovers on Ho-Oh, and I was going to say Power Herb on Xerneas, but like your Sunsteel striking that anyway. But it's still an interesting tech, especially because we know that Solgaleo fuses with Necrozma, so maybe it'll be cool for that version of it. But who knows? Marshadow also gets access to knock off. It actually gets a few moves in its moveset arsenal, but I kind of want to do a video specifically about some of the moves that fighting types got, and I'll just include Marshadow in that because it is a fighting type. But I'll be talking about all the move tutors that the fighting types got, or even the egg moves that they got. But I want to make a specific video for that. Marshadow got access to knockoff. Again, this is cool for knocking off Ho-Oh's item, like defensive Ho-Oh is a switch into Marshadow, defensive Zygarde is a switch in, so that's pretty cool. I guess in Solgaleo's case that also helps, but for the most part, I'm not sure what I'd run it with, right? Like, I'd rather have Bulk Up, Spectral Thief, Close Combat, and then Shadow Sneak, or Sub-Swagger, Spectral Thief, Close Combat, or Marshadow with the Bulk Up. Like, I'm not sure exactly how much it will help Marshadow, but it's still cool to think that this Pokemon just got another tech. It actually got a lot of stuff this generation. And again, I'll talk about it in the fighting type video. And again, like I said, leave your thoughts. I'm just giving my initial thoughts on them. So Raticate, Alolan Raticate got knockoff. Now, this is good in the lower tiers. Alolan Raticate's actually a pretty big threat in NU. And even in RU, it's a little bit annoying because it actually can break through the core of Umbreon, Registeel, Xatu, just naturally, just with its stab, with PokeaimMD and whatnot. So having knockoff on this Pokemon, and it being a Pokemon that actually doesn't have a way of dealing with, like a good way of dealing with Steel types, I think that's pretty big, allowing this Mon to just get rid of their item. And knockoff is a little bit weaker than Crunch if you already got rid of their item. But if you didn't get rid of their item, knockoff is stronger than Crunch because it goes from it goes to, what is it, 97.5 base power or something like that when you knock off their item. So pretty cool for Alolan Raticate, for like a Hustle variant and whatnot, like an SD variant. I could definitely see it running that. Even on the more support one, I've been seeing AV as well in certain cases, taking nothing from Delphox, just knock off something coming in, you turn it out of there and whatnot. Necrozma gets access to knockoff. Necrozma gets a lot. Again, this is probably going to have its own specific video talking about it at some point. But this Mon gets a lot. But knockoff is also, again, cool on this Mon because one thing that it currently can't do is really punish Dark types coming in. But for a support Mon, I'm talking about like the Stealth Rock support set, that'd be pretty cool. Maybe when it fuses with Solgaleo or Lunala. Which we already all knew that for months, by the way. I'm just saying, that's not a spoiler. We all knew that for months. It's like some trailer type thing. Not sure how I feel about that one in particular. But there are other move tutors this Pokemon does get that I want to talk about. But I just want to show you guys all the Pokemon that get knockoff. Guzzlord gets it. In my experience, like the Guzzlord that I love most to use in NU and even RU is Choice Specs, because switching into Dark Pulse is ridiculous. Draco, a strong Fire Blast, and even Sludge Wave. But maybe on more of support set, Being able to knock off fairies coming in, pretty cool. Maybe like an assault vest set if you want to use it like in OU, for example, as a sun check. I also used it back when sun was allowed in the lower tiers. I'm talking about like drought and whatnot. So Guzzlord was actually pretty cool with that. But having access to that, I mean, overall, like this mon has been pretty subpar, I want to say, of all the Ultra Beasts. But it's actually gotten a bit better. Just because Specs is so good of dealing with like Xatu and NU, Statsu, Steelix. Just dealing with that, it's just really good. So getting knockoff, I mean, it's about time. It makes sense that it has knockoff. Dhelmise gets knockoff. So again, I'm talking about these Pokemon in. I'm talking about them based on where the tiers they're in currently. With Ultra Sun and Moon, there will be a bunch of different tier shifts, I'm sure. There'll be bans, there'll be ups and downs. Dhelmise, wherever it finds itself in RU or in NU, knockoff is pretty cool. I like it specifically for being able to deal with Pokemon like Registeel, Umbreon, basically just getting rid of their item, supporting and still being able to rapid spin. So like an assault vest set could be cool as a rapid spinner, but my favorite Dhelmise set is the sub SD anchor shot set, the one that traps you. So I don't think it will affect that much in that case. I'm not sure how it also worked in VGC. I know this Pokemon hasn't really seen much. Komala gets it, and I'm actually pretty grateful that Komala gets it because Komala doesn't currently have an attack to hit ghost types. And as a rapid spinner, besides Sucker Punch, and as a rapid spinner, that's pretty big, I think, having that. It does also have access to Swords, and I love Komala, man. It does also have access to Swords, and I don't know if you guys saw the sub hub that I did with MV, but I lost one game because Komala literally couldn't touch a Gourgeist. I had to play rough it, and that was pretty much all I could do. So having a knockoff in its arsenal, especially as a spin blocker, I think is pretty big because you're actually able, even though it's going to be like, you know, PU, NU type thing, just having knockoff in your arsenal and being able to do your job as a spinner, I think does get this Pokemon a little bit better. It also has a bunch of other move tutors as well, but again, I'll talk about that in like a moveset video, maybe by the time Ultra Sun and Moon comes out. We have Golisopod. Golisopod does now have access to knockoff. Pretty cool considering Bug Water is just solid in general, like first impression. I really wish they buffed it to make it actually a fake out first impression, like actually fake you out. That'd be pretty cool. But Bug Water is really strong, and just having knockoff, being able to punish bulky waters coming in, fairy types, pretty much just resistances, pretty big, especially like on a support spikes Golisopod set, which has definitely found usage, maybe like on a red card spike set, or just a bulky set in general. I do like knockoff a lot, especially if you like if you're MV or any of us really, and you want to try and use this thing in OU, and you just want to wear down Toxapex. Well, maybe not Toxapex because it has recovered, but like Tapu Fini, knocking that thing off, knocking off fairy types and whatnot. Pretty big for Golisopod. Also having a nice strong hit for the Blade in the lower tiers, which is pretty cool. Passimian gets knockoff. I'll just talk about this Pokemon because it does get a few other move tutors I think were cool. It also gets, I'm just going to talk about it specifically because I think this actually helps it not be the super shadow of Primate, though it definitely is in the shadow of Primate. But obviously its hidden ability is Defiant, which is not released yet, right? I don't know why it's not released. Unfortunately, it is not. You don't call out Passimians, unfortunately, when you did like the whole calling thing with them. SOS crap, but it gets knockoff, it gets gunk shot, it gets seed bomb. I believe it also gets Iron Head if I'm not mistaken. I'm actually gonna look at the list right now, but I'm not gonna pull it up. Well, I'm gonna see if I can look at it real quick. But it gets a whole bunch of cool new move tutors, and the fact that it can actually abuse that, like when it actually gets its Defiant, I can actually see it being pretty decent. It also gets Drain Punch, Iron Tail. But knockoff is the big one that it has over Primate, right? Knockoff is the big one it has over Primate. Currently, it didn't really have anything like that. Like it was pretty much a worse Primate, I would say, though more defense. But now it has access to knockoff, and then of course, if you want Iron Tail, Iron Head for your Fairy, or maybe Earthquake in its arsenal. So that's pretty cool. When it does get Defiant, it actually might see some usage in the lower tiers. Of course, Primate is already NU, so I'm not sure. They might be fighting for it, but like it has some cool things like bulk up in its arsenal. So we'll see. But I am happy that Passimian did get knockoff, being able to punish ghost types. Serena got knockoff and Power Whip. I'm just talking about I know I said I would talk about like different move tutors and different things, but I think that's pretty big to talk about. But knockoff is pretty nice. I wish it wasn't a generation too late. Like being able to actually touch Marowak and VGC would have been cool. Power Whip also being really strong. I do like Chop Kick, of course, a lot on Serena because lowering that attack guaranteed is so cool. For study based power, I'll definitely take that. But knockoff is pretty big, especially if you're maybe trying to use it this generation in VGC. Like Aegislash is going to be big again. So being able to get rid of that thing's item is cool. And obviously just punishing anything. But again, as a spinner, having knockoff is nice to be able to go deal with ghost types and, you know, having Drop Kick or something like that, synthesis, like as a support set or anything like that. It also helps out its scarf set a bit. Like I don't really think you need to run Play Rough particularly, but I'm happy that Serena ended up getting that. Toucanon got it. Not the biggest thing really for Toucanon. If you're using Toucanon in the lower tiers, you're probably using SD, Flying MZ, Bullet Seed type thing, but and Brick Break, so you can actually hit Steel Ties. But knockoff is a good secondary coverage that hits neutral versus steel. And then Alolan Persian did get knockoff. Again, I really wish this thing got it before because I'm not sure how much usage this thing is going to see, but maybe it will. Maybe it will, considering Cresselia, and it'll still be the faster fake out of Kangaskhan and whatnot, having Fur Coat. But it did get knockoff. That's really cool because when I think about Parting Shot. When I think about like support Persian or whatnot, I think about like knockoff, Parting Shot, Taunt, Foul Play. Obviously now you'd be missing something like Toxic, and knockoff will be more dependent on your attack stat. But just being able to cripple your opponent, getting rid of their item, stop them, I think this is pretty cool for in Persian's case. And definitely pairs well with like Parting Shot or whatnot. You're getting rid of their item, and then you're lowering their stats. So pretty cool for Persian. Maybe we'll see some VGC usage with it, and you know, obviously in the lower tiers. But let me know your thoughts. I think these two are the biggest ones, right? I think these ones are the ones that really do affect the OU tier, and I do want to know your thoughts. So you can leave them down below, and yeah, let me know. So goodbye, friends.